you get popular on OdySee, then you've really achieved something. If you got popular on Rumble, then you're
and you're one salty cracker.
There you go.
At first, I was doing pretty well on OdySee. I had a lot of. The problem is OdySee doesn't have enough viewing. It's weird. I wonder why, because Roku has an app. People should be watching the videos on Roku all day. I get a decent amount of.
He's got like 25,000 watching live on his streams on Rumble.
I was getting 30,000 for some of my OdySee things. So I mean, but now it's down to like 1,000 for most things, or 100 or 20, because some videos you watch. If you're pushing people to YouTube, that's where they're gonna watch stuff. So you have to push people to your other content. That's a true fact. I agree with you, Jeremy.
You're not helping Anthony Williams at all, Xirtus.
No, not at all. I mean, you look at the SEC thing, though. It's just really poignant and good timing that they ruled against securities with Library and OdySee, and then next week, basically you find out about FTX association with the daughter of the SEC chief's boyfriend, the father being the ex-boss of the SEC chief. No escape.
Oh, let's see if we can do this. Okay, so who wants to get into the science?
Everybody here.
Everybody, yeah.
Welcome,
Let's
nerds. Go. Nerds, turds, and everybody in between. Let's see the science.
All right, we're gonna try this.
Oh, wrong one. Oh, here we go.
I'm working on it. Hold on. It's StreamYard share screen, so let's just say it's a little on the leggy side.
This will happen.
Also, I have a lot of things open. That is not helping the situation whatsoever, but it's only showing me web-based tabs, not showing me the actual folders and any of the files that I have open. I have some PDF files open on my computer right now. I'm just trying to figure out if it's even going to offer me.
I know how it goes. It's like trying to get ready for a stream. You have a million browsers open all at once.
Well, the real trouble here is that StreamYard is a crippled streaming service. At the best, it's still a crippled streaming service. I'm glad that it has the functionality it has, but that being said, it's got some things that are lacking.
There's so much more to it, and I'm glad you're bringing that up. This Saturday, I'm actually going to be doing a Twitch and OBS and Streamlabs, Stream Deck, stream connected, multi-stream focused at my buddy KY Smooth's place in his Twitch channel. Check it out. Fuck, I gotta get the link. Pardon my language. Jeremiah, are you ready with your demonstration yet? And is this...
Well, I would be if it would scroll here, but it's totally frozen up, and for some reason it has not cut the hasn't cut the audio, but
technical
it's definitely
difficulties.
Not
Mike, while you're still with us, do you maybe want to go over a little bit of your Adams motor and explain how you're getting the over efficiency aspects out of it?
Yeah, well, I've been dabbling with the piezoelectrics, and I'm finding that when you hook up the piezoelectrics to a coil, an induction coil, in parallel, it's given me some very interesting over unity effects. One great effect, it's reducing lens law by a huge margin. And number two, it's also curing some of the problems with a lot of the pulse motors out there with capacitive inductance in the coil. And it's allowing that stored up energy that gets stuck in the coil to have a way of an exit. So, yeah, it's just, I'm more and more getting into the ultrasonics. The ultrasonics and the energy seem to be a very interesting combination together. They seem to work hand in hand. So, yeah, it's just to get really deep into it, it would take a whole show to get into it. But it has to do with getting the coil into harmonic resonance by the use of ultrasonics and being able to get the frequencies up in the very high range. Like I said, it gets really, really technical. I would have to show drawings and charts and everything. And
No
it's
worries,
just,
Mike. Appreciate you giving us like the rundown of it. And for those who want to see more, and you've done a whole, you go into it in depth in your own channels, Faraday Research on YouTube. I will bring up the link here
yeah.
in a second.
See, one thing I'd like to add is that I totally agree with Eric Dollard. He says we got to go back to basics to make a real good over unity system and to make it work effectively. He says you got to go back to analog. If you don't go back to analog, you're not going to get the effects. He says, in his words, electronics destroys electricity. So that's coming from Dollard, word for word.
He's not wrong about that, and the main reason is the potential
I really
these
like
components
that
are
right
taking.
there.
Yeah, he says if you want your system to run correctly and modulate properly and perform flawlessly, you have to stay analog. And I
right, like
100% agree with him.
Understand that it's such a profound and important aspect of it, and especially when people try using digital measuring equipment trying to get and read some of these certain effects, and it's like, no, you have to have the analog to be able to actually harness, use, and receive these energies.
Yeah, because like a lot of what I'm working with right now works on impulse electricity, and a lot of the measuring equipment that we have out there right now does not handle that. The only thing that I could use remotely close and give me some idea what's going on is an oscilloscope. Other than that, all the other meters and stuff just do not work. They don't work.
And shout out to the Hutchinsons. John and Nancy go deep into that understanding, and I look forward to our next stream podcast with them, where I'm sure they'll have some useful knowledge and experience in that specific science.
Yeah, for sure.
Bernie, let me show you something really quick you can't do with digital, okay? You might want to turn your volume down a little bit. I'm doing this just for fun. I used to do this to scare my wife all the time.
Do not try this at home, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, come on.
I do this for fun.
It might even show this. There we go. Now I can finally see what everyone else is seeing.
Something about disruptive discharge that just, love it.
The EVO is coming out of it.
Love it.
Nice camera swap, G.
Yeah, I set it up a little earlier. That's from the back EMF of the coil. That's actually my secondary that was filling up the capacitance that I was popping off just for fun.
Yeah,
good
disruptive.
Call, Anthony Williams, the EMP froze things. It did that. The first
it will.
froze the camera there.
Oh yeah, it could do damage. Trust me. I blew the LED display on my DC power supply. I was playing with the Tesla coil and I had the spark gaps a little bit too wide, and I was making a bit of an EMP there. I was lucky I didn't fry my cell phone in the same.
If you send me a picture of which power supply you have, I'll tell you which chip you need. But I think I already know which one it was. So the chips aren't expensive. They take a little while to arrive. But I did just order them, and replace those in my power supply, and they work pretty good. So
Yeah, I got another power supply since, so
interestingly, it blew up my current meter, not my voltage. So
current meter.
That's
Yeah.
the problem with digital, right?
Well, you know what? Tesla coils, from what I heard,
Yeah,
they can generate up
unfortunately.
to 2,500 amps.
Only 2,500. Oh man, that's fun.
Oh yeah, that'll give you a lifter.
Who is Bex?
It's that charge separation Nikola Tesla was playing with that
You nailed it
does
there.
some weird stuff.
Nailed it,
Right.
Adam. Nailed it.
It's a key, definitely, Adam. It's definitely a key.
Well,
Daniel
Tesla.
Oscar's asking if Adam's got his bagel coils to lift yet.
I wasn't
the goal, guys.
trying them to lift yet, but no, sorry. My last video with the xenon tube didn't seem to do anything either.
Well, we're going to be playing with some plasma tonight, so we'll get a bit of a chance to see how different gases react in different fields. But I will not offer, unfortunately, a bagel coil field because I do not have a bagel coil to produce said field on hand.
No worries, brother, but please do go more into this. Earlier you had mentioned a mercury vortex plasma and sunburn. Is this correct?
Yeah, I noticed it on my hand. I was holding the thing with my hand to kind of give it a closed circuit through the glass, the quartz glass that the enclosure is made of. So what I was playing with is a 500-watt arc lamp that, well, I should say, what is it rated for? I think it actually is rated for 500 watts, yeah, in the internal glass enclosure. So this device would be basically a bulb, a commercial bulb that you'd see inside of like a Sam's Club or a large department store. They're also used in street lights. And I got a whole bunch of those things. So I took some of the cores out, and I have one of those cores from these mercury vapor arc lamps. And when they first start up, they have a reasonably large quantity of mercury inside of them compared to the size of the enclosure. More than you'd expect from a CFL fluorescent lamp or any kind of fluorescent lamp. And so when they kick on, the mercury starts out as a liquid, but it quickly becomes a vapor. And when it becomes a vapor, it tends to take, for some reason, a vortex type of form. Breaks it apart into beads after it creates a vortex. And then those beads will create spontaneous heating, which I have to be careful about because when they generate an EVO at the end of the electrode for the cathode side, it'll stay a cathode even though I'm feeding it with high frequency AC. I'm not rectifying anything. I'm not giving it a DC bias. It creates that on its own. But what's interesting is the physical plasma formats that it takes. And that's what I've been focusing on.
Nice. And the self-organization of plasma into that vortex. That's almost what Nancy Hutchinson's saying of how the 0 point energy comes out of the consciousness or out of self-organization.
Let me answer Daniel's question about the 20 coil stack. It hasn't flown. It's done some fun things with magnets, I think is probably the best way to say it. Well, let me see. I'm going to do something really crude here, but I'm
If you tried
show it's okay. I'm just going to show a cell phone video via my webcam on my laptop, which, like I said, it's crude, but you'll see it.
Have you tried putting some dry ice on it?
Unfortunately, around here, they don't really sell much for dry ice.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That'd be
this is one of
interesting
those areas where you don't find too much of it. You've got to really search hard for it.
Oh, really? Yeah, we can buy it at the grocery store where we live.
Oh, geez, I've never seen it at a grocery store. There's one place in town, one single place in 20-mile radius that sold it, and they have it occasionally.
Yeah. No, that'd be interesting to super cool those down and try some experiments with that.
Trying to find this video here. Let's see. Guess I'll just start checking them.
See, one thing I knew about Floyd Sweet, his device back in the 80s when he did it, when he got his to a point where it went into he would dead short it And from time to time, it would happen. Basically his coil would go into a super freezing state within a matter of seconds, and the magnets on top that he had on top of the VTA would actually fracture because of the sudden, temperature change. And on a few occasions, it actually lifted off the ground.
Wow.
So you're looking at a bunch of little magnets. They look like they're spherical, but they're actually bar magnets here. And they're all over the place.
Oh, look at them. Yeah. Ooh, dancing around.
They're doing little circles.
See that now. Oh,
That's
snap.
super cool.
So you can see them kind of moving around slowly.
You should put that to some people. I'm telling you.
Yeah, it was for a YouTube short.
Loving it.
You can see them kind of doing their
Yeah,
possibly
A bunch of sand dollars.
Let me just go ahead and pull up the magnetic viewing film videos. Let's see, maybe this one's one. Yeah, there we go.
We're getting a reflection. Oh,
yeah, I'm trying to fix that. There we go.
There we go. Nice. Awesome. On the nice. Yeah, look at the field.
There's got to be a way I can fix this reflection.
Oh,
give me a second. Let me see if I can fix this.
Turn off your room lighting.
Yeah, well, the problem is my room lighting composes itself of 5 different light sources, so that is a slightly more complicated.
Easier said than done.
Turn your lights down low. I wanna know.
Down. You cannot turn the energy down. We need to pump the energy up.
What do you mean turn the energy down? More power.
We need more power. Turn the energy up.
But, and we know how much power we need. 1.21 gigawatts.
We need all the power in the world.
300 kilojoules. Something reasonable.
Oh,
geez, that didn't solve it. Hold on. There we go. Okay, that solved it. That'll solve it.
Does Faraday equipment? Yeah, a Faraday cage will always prevent EMP from getting through if you make it properly.
Oh, no, it won't.
No? It won't? Okay, never mind. Take it from the man who knows. Oh, wow. Look at that magnetic field and it go. Wow, that's very good video.
We can see the ring in the middle, though.
Oh, yeah, you can see the ring in the middle.
The webcam does not like this video.
Yeah, no, it's going good there. We've seen it good. Oh, yeah, right there.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah, you can see the full toroid in there.
This is showing how some of them tend to stick the middle. But anyways, you can see they're rotating around 3/4 inch, or excuse me, 3/4 the size of the diameter of each pancake. So where that light is shining, it's about 3/4 wide. It tends to lock into that little region there and stick around. So we're looking at a double reflection here. One I recorded with my camera, and that's the reflection on the top that I can't get rid of because it's part of the video. And then the other reflection is, well, what's going off the screen. I tend to take a lot of shots of the same thing in order to get a good quality video. But yeah, so what this is basically showing us, people are probably wondering, why does this matter at this point? Kill the can. It matters because what it's showing us is there's a large number of individual fields which have a rotational aspect to them. And when we add all those fields up in a superposition, we end up getting a brand new field that's not calculable by the individual fields in an easy way. This would go into Maxwell's quaternions and how we start to derive some of these superposition fields that do exist. Now, Steinmetz would be another great resource for that, and Tesla had discovered this, but again, the word superposition did not exist in that time. So we've got to keep that in mind. Either way, the main point is these fields become very, very large, and they're made of smaller fields that are individuated in point space. And when they add up together, we end up with a brand new field that doesn't really make mathematical sense in the conventional way because our physics is designed to consider a uniform space-time. And these fields will screw with the uniformity of space-time. The epsilon mu basic equation of gravity, if you consider gravity electromagnetic, they will screw with the rate flow of time, and they will screw with the gravitational refractive index.
That's a lot. That's dimensional warping, essentially, is it not?
It is. You could consider it that way, at least. I would say be cautious. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, there must have been a delay there. I said it was mind-blowing. That's what I was saying.
Oh, yeah. By the way, your mic is still very low, G.
Yeah, G, try clicking on settings, turning off automatic, bringing it up to like 120 or 130 on the settings section. Memory Man saying we're gonna have to see the great Taurus field in the sky soon enough.
Yeah, that sounded better.
You've just got to take a look over the skies above the Large Hadron Collider and see your toroids all you like.
Yeah. Xirtus, do you want to actually pull up some of those pictures of above the CERN? Like, there's some crazy, like, how is it even allowed to be going on? I remember the one time they fired it up, and it was like it's like one of the 3 times it actually went to the full potential, and it was when the opposite side of the planet is Nepal, and the Nepal earthquake happened right after it went off.
Well,
and
one of the
Type
things.
in hey, Andreas, type in vortex ring above CERN.
I love how the hard part there was the word CERN. You're like, vortex, got that. Boom. Yep. Okay. But that's normal because when you open a portal.
That's not what we're talking about. That's probably CGI. I'm not even sure what to make of that image, but you'll actually see real, genuine vortex rings.
Donut space cloud.
Nope, still not it. Keep on going. You'll see it. There we go. You just skipped over it.
Where?
I know the less interesting one. That's what we're looking at.
Okay. Yeah.
That's normal.
This is indeed normal.
The new normal Strokes album. I think that we're looking at CERN. You know, earlier today I was looking at Switzerland underground bunkers and stuff, and that got me thinking about how Switzerland's designed to just kind of break off from the rest of the world. And one of the things you looked at a second ago when I go to the CERN map, were just you get the point that they're really good at tunnels. They love tunnels, and it's just crazy ant farm and all the mountains that just love burrowing through the mountain. The Godard Tunnel, for instance.
A lot of really brilliant people migrate over to Switzerland because their regulations are extremely lenient. In fact, to the extent where there's almost no regulations on a lot of things. And here in the United States, the FCC controls most of the transmissions and most of the electromagnetic systems, including having some influence on particle accelerators. And it seems like every time somebody launches a new accelerator, starts that thing up for the first time, the rest of humanity is terrified that they're going to create a black hole or something else that will destroy the world.
You know, we just answered this earlier on the show, but information that's repeated will be valuable. Do you know how many bunkers there are in Switzerland?
At this point, I think that we'd be foolish to even take a guess because far more bunkers exist than we've ever been notified of.
So the legal answer is there are at least enough bunkers for every citizen in Switzerland by law. There has to be enough bunkers.
Seriously, that's legally written down somewhere?
Yeah, it's been that way for almost ever. There was a law that ended in 2017 or 18 or something like that. There was one point where they stopped it for a day. And by the end of the day, they reinstated it because there was some epidemic or national disaster, international crisis going on. And like, yeah, no, we got to have this ready. And so all of Switzerland's ready to destroy its bridges, self-isolate itself. And everyone, if they don't have their own bunkers, there are these big ones, like the Sonnenberg Switzerland bunker, because there's, there has to be, I think there's at least 300,000 bunkers that have to contain 8 million people. And some of them are full cities. And we saw a video earlier of dudes on a Segway going into one of these crazy underground cities that exist with bunk beds and everything ready to go in case they have to, but there's just tons of abandoned ones too. I mean, there's more bunkers than there are people in Switzerland, and underground bunkers built in World War II and the 1890s, and they're just everywhere, man. It's crazy.
China should have taken the lead from Switzerland because they've got plenty of abandoned facilities, abandoned apartment buildings and complexes that nobody will ever live in because they're completely uncompleted. But in Switzerland, they decided to build proper.
Yeah, they're built
underground.
correctly.
We've got to remember, during the epochs, we know that earthquakes were a major deal, and earthquakes had a huge role in causing destruction during the last mud flood. So we've got all that going on, and these access points are going to be cut off to the tunnels, to the elevators.
Yeah, maybe that's their plan. Be cut off for a century and self-isolate while the reset happens. So Switzerland emerges as technologically proficient in an era of dark ages for others.
Yeah. So there's a question about EMP pulses, and like if an EMP went off, would it like destroy all of the cars and everything in it? I think it would, right? Like up to, unless it's completely analog.
Well, a high amplitude CMP can cause a lot of damage to electronics, up to and including cars. This is why I mentioned earlier that a Faraday cage will not shield you from a scalar impulse. A scalar potential, an electrostatic potential, for example, will pass directly through metals. If anybody has ever seen the example of an electroscope, which is a little glass jar with two leaves of foil hanging delicately on a piece of metal, well, they'll spread apart when you put electrostatic charge onto the terminal. But the funny thing is, the electrostatic charge on the terminal does not actually have to enter the terminal. It can simply be applied via a field, and those little leaves will still spread themselves apart and show that there is potential locally on that spherical terminal, or that terminal on the electroscope. And so this idea basically tells us that electrostatic potential in the form of a scalar potential will penetrate through any amount of metal, no matter how thick or how robust you make it, and come right back out the other side. So Faraday cages work great for Hertzian waves. They will block completely a radio signal because it's a Hertzian wave. They will not block whatsoever a scalar potential, as it will still show up as long as it's a direct and continuous scalar potential on the other side. Now, an alternating current scalar potential will induce eddy currents into the Faraday cage, and there will be an attenuation. But that attenuation doesn't reduce the resultant output to zero. It still has quite a bit of power, even on the inside of the cage.
Okay. I get what you're saying there. So if a nuke goes off overhead, we're all screwed. If a solar storm goes off overhead, we're all screwed. Or if a
to a level,
by, we're all screwed.
I would say that instead of being totally screwed, we can, like I mentioned, attenuate a scalar impulse as long as it has a volts per meter and amps per meter, because those changing waveforms, like those produced by a detonation style high energy weapon, will in fact still have a gradient, and we can attenuate a gradient. We can't attenuate a perfect beam, but as long as there is some kind of gradient, we can slow that gradient down and distribute it. And this has everything to do with gravitational phenomena.
Yeah.
I'm sure nobody's probably asked the question, if we let off a nuke somewhere on the planet, will LIGO detect it? Well, the answer is absolutely yes, and not because of geologic changes. It'll detect it because of the changes in local space-time metrics, like we mentioned, epsilon and mu, because of that detonation, because materials are breaking down and you have incredibly high electric scalar potentials that are now cross-interfering with new magnetic fields. Their complex electric field has a lot of energy localized. A lot of energy localized. And they will change the rate flow of time local to that event, which is why we get 3 distinct waves. On your own show, Bernie, Michael Boyd has gone into great detail on these multiple waves produced by radio energy type device explosion, and show that you get your percussive, your acoustic wave, and it's the last one to show up. You get another wave that comes before that, which has to do with the electric scalar potentials. And that has to do with how many ions are in the air coming down from the upper atmosphere in the form of positive ions, which are electrically propelled, not acoustically, but electrically propelled by the electromagnetic field. Then you have a magnetic field potential, which is the one that really does the damage to electronics. And so you have three waves from a device like that. And the last wave, your acoustic, does not do any damage, and it will be shielded by a Faraday cage. Your other two, your scalar magnetic and your scalar electric, both will do damage through a Faraday cage, but they will both be attenuated because they're following a gradient, which is a point source bang at the point where the thing goes off, and that gradient spreads out by the inverse square law as the distance increases as an average over time. So you can shield yourself. You can't completely shield it. You can't completely stop it, but you can pretty well prevent your electronics from being completely destroyed as long as you're willing to keep them in a metal cabinet at all times.
What about being underground or being under a mountain? Is that the best shielding? Like, is that why all of these ancient civilizations had these immense cave underground dwellings, and why the army's now in mountains? Or what's your thoughts on plasma catastrophism?
I've got thoughts.
Oh, I want to hear his. I want to hear somebody else's opinions for a change.
Let's say the bagel coil fields are what make up our reality. One of the things that got me is they probably make up the surface of the sun in an interlock thing like medieval chainmail.
Can you get a little closer to your mic, Adam, if you wouldn't mind, for the sake of us all? Thanks.
Don't know where it is.
We can hear you better now.
I think I found it. It's up by my microphone. I mean the camera. So if we assume that the sun, the surface, there's a reason it looks like it has surface tension, is that it is made up of the bagel coils interlocked, just like ball lightning. So the sun's probably not as hot as it looks. It's probably the surface of it is that. So sun-diving comets can interrupt this. Coronal holes, it's not formed there, so you don't get that surface tension. So if that's correct, it means a bunch of dust can hit the sun, clog it up, and it'll blow up and basically make a giant solar flash. And I think this is what people are looking at every 12,000 years. Our whole world is reset. Now, that's going to have a bunch of really odd effects. The biggest one being that the crust of the Earth and the core of the Earth are magnetically locked. So this event is going to unlock that. So the Earth's surface should spin 90 degrees. And the odd thing about it, have you ever seen that video with the wrench spinning in space that oscillates back and forth between two positions?
You're talking about the T-shaped wrench.
Yes, the T-shaped wrench. The Earth appears to do the same thing. So it'll go from one spot, it'll flip to the other, then it'll flip back. So a geologist looks at it and they're like, oh, the Earth has been in the same orbit and spin for billions of years without realizing it occasionally goes to the other direction.
Well, let's define, though. It doesn't mechanically go to the other direction. Its pole position goes to the other direction, and that grabs onto the incredibly huge amount of ferromagnetic materials that form the Earth's crust and form the tectonic motions. Hence, massive, massive increase in earthquakes and a huge amount of flare current energy that's released during those events. And unfortunately, that it's not a single event. It lasts decades. So...
Well, the other big effect is going to be almost interplanetary lightning that's going to do something like carve out the Grand Canyon in a couple of minutes. So when this event happens, you're going to have to deal with I talked to an expert that one of my friends knows I'm poor, so he paid for this guy to call me and consult me. And I asked him, what do you need to deal with this? And he said, imagine watermelon-size hail. You can deal with that, you're just fine. You can get a bunch of stuff that's ripped up by the lightning, goes into low orbit, and falls back down. You're 3 foot under the ground.
Probably.
I asked him about widespread fire, and he said he didn't think so, but I know the archaeology says yes. But some little animals would burrow 6 inches down, and they would live through it. Now, they died afterward, but they lived through the initial attack.
Yay! A literal living hell on Earth. Woo!
it happens every 12,000 years, and we're descended from people that were smart enough to either be lucky or go underground. A bunch of animals and plants live through it. Like, it is survivable. Only 4%
It'd be far
of the
better to
species-
survive it from space, though. It'd be great if we could get off the surface of the planet, wouldn't it? Now.
Oh, I'd love that.
Yes.
And looking at the technology
Yes, it would
bits
be.
left
It-
over. I mean, has anyone looked at the archaeology when they came up with these tiny little wires in the ground where they used to think a city was? They're nanoscale, and they
Yeah,
look like
the
mini
little
little
toroid
bagel
ones.
coils.
Made out of gold.
Right. Imagine why you would want something like that.
It also
'Cause if you
makes
make
you
them-
wonder why the ancient structures out of granite, because granite blocks low-level frequencies of electromagnetics.
Shameful has a great point. It's been 12,000 years since the last excursion.
There's a reason I'm getting ready.
Nervous laugh.
If the sun goes black, then you know you've got about a day.
Okay. All right. Take it from Adam, the resident knowledge keeper wisdom of the sun turning black. We have
Sorry,
one
guys.
day.
I had to step away. Well, no, I didn't actually go anywhere, but had a whisper conversation there. Hopefully, not much that got through, but
It was
whatever.
a hot mic. We heard everything. Just kidding.
we're talking about soup.
no.
So you guys now know our secrets of soup.
Ah, darn.
If you
That
heard
would have been
everything.
a good recipe of a secret soup sauce. Jeremiah,
Secret
do you got
sauce.
anything
What's
to
this
share?
about you?
Good heavens, there's been a lot of comments since then. I'm not even bothering to read through them. I'm just trying to get to the bottom. Holy cow. Who
The
do
one
people are
comment I
doing?
saw was you can't get ready for this sort of thing, and I think it's funny because the Jehovah Witnesses told me that all the plans of mice and men you can't. It's like, well, I can at least try to survive. It doesn't mean I have to plan on failure.
Xirtus, I'm leaving your screen in control for a minute while I quickly run to the bathroom. I will be right back.
How dare you? Yeah, go ahead.
I'm doing that too.
Use your human powers to exist. That's fine.
Man, Xirtus is coming through loud and clear. That's for sure. Jeez.
Is like, am I a fist away from the microphone? People have been telling me I got to work on my.
It seems like
Microphone-
it was
microphone
definitely about twice
exposure.
as loud.
Oh,
I'm gonna do what Bernie's about to do, so I will catch you
All
in
right.
just a moment.
oh, it really is just me then.
I don't even know if that's good.
It's you, man. It's all
hear
you.
me?
Gerald's still here though, right? Gerald, somebody.
I am.
He's there.
I'm here.
All right.
Can you hear me at least?
Kinda. It's a little crunkly, a little muffly.
Really? That's crazy. I'm gonna try and fix it.
I can still hear you though. That was at least legible, if that's the word. Audible, intelligible. I'm looking at these underground bunkers still.
Audible?
Audible,
How about
audible, interpretable. How about now? It's still kind of mumbly, but it's muddled. It sounds a bit muddled.
Interpretable? Really? That's messed
Oh.
up.
Go to your
Maybe
settings.
if I jumped out
and
and came back in, but I'll wait until everybody
turn-
comes back first.
Turn off automatically adjust microphone volume. I think that helps.
I got it at 100 and
Do you know where your microphone is? Maybe you just need to be closer.
Yeah, bring your microphone close. There's definitely an echo. It's high enough that I can hear the television through, or the screen. I can hear myself through you.
Okay, so how maybe if I turn it down? How about now?
That's pretty good. Yeah, just stay close to your mic, and that should be fine. Look how giant these drills are. Yeah, no, it's okay.
All
I can hear you. It's not perfect though, I'll admit, but that's okay.
That's a nice drill. I want several of those.
Fun fact: you know who invented
Maybe
these
if I
drills?
restart after, I'll get it back better.
You know who invented these drills?
No clue.
Howard Hughes' grandfather. Although I think he was
Wow.
adopted or something, I forget the whole deal. But the reason why he had the family fortune His family died, but he inherited all the wealth from the drilling bits that they invented to go underground for oil, right?
Is that why
That's
you
what
need a drill bit that big around?
Oh yeah. If you're gonna build a giant tunnel through, these are each one of these drill bits that goes into one of these systems that is part of a giant drill that's taking out a tunnel is necessary for things like we were saying earlier, the Godard tunnel, which it's huge. They're going right into the side of a mountain of ore, right? A lot of this time it's not just dirt. These mountains are made out of granite and stone and metals. So it's pretty intense to be able to just drill through these mountains.
I was surprised looking up how many of those drills have been sold worldwide. It's staggering. What are they doing with them all?
I wonder.
Well, part of the answer, sorry for the delay there, part of the answer to that is infrastructure. Think about all subway tunnels were basically drilled with these things in modern times. All deep underground cables were drilled with a smaller version of a similar device. We see the application that benefits the average citizen all the time. We just never realize exactly where it came from. How did those fibers get buried 60 feet underground? How did we get them from point A to point B in a straight line that's many miles long? Well, we certainly didn't use a straight drill bit. So, but yeah, it's one of those unthought of things where we just accept that it exists and we're thankful that we have these connections, but never really think about how we got from A to B, from the dark ages to where we are now.
Yeah, tunnels are insane, and the bigger tunnels that we have now are only matched by the older giant tunnels. It seems like tunnels got progressively smaller through the centuries, the man-made tunnels, but that now all of a sudden we have tunnel machines since about 100 years ago that are able to make giant tunnels again. But we clearly have giant tunnels, and also there are just natural caverns, giant natural caverns, which, the pressures from magma and volcanoes force a bunch of tunnels, which then later on get filled with stalagmite and stalactites. But they're huge. These are huge because this is a giant flume, essentially, a lot of the time. Or there's pressure gases that build, and imagine just the pressures of gases underground. But yeah, then they get filled with water. Underground dumbs Russia. I should do China. That'd actually be more interesting. But the idea of underground, discrete underground military bunkers.
I don't think those places are going to live through the earthquakes that are going to happen when this plasma event hits. I think it's
People say that a lot, and I used to believe that up until who's that scientist who's on like every TV show, who's like not Neil deGrasse Tyson, but the Japanese guy,
Michio Kaku.
Exactly. Michio Kaku, something like that. I can't ever spell his name. Right? Yeah. He said just about as much when The Matrix 2 came out, and he's like on the screensavers. He said, "Well, they're going to break up because of the geothermals," and just because he said it, I know this seems kind of prejudiced, but it's really just against him and Neil deGrasse Tyson and Bill Nye and people on TV that tell me what I'm supposed to think. I feel like I just don't trust the idea that everything we've been told about tunnels. I mean, you look at the kinds of structures they build, and you can make a structure that can probably survive almost anything. So,
if you take Michio Kaku's analogy from talking about what he thinks lightsabers might be and how they can be made to tunnels, there's clearly a lack in the practical application side of his physics background.
I suppose I was thinking about it breaking things because I had a magnitude 3.5 earthquake break one of my wells, and it's really obnoxious. It's only a few 100-foot deep, but still.
It doesn't take much, though, does it? With tectonic plate shifts.
Here's some of the tunnel thing. I mean, I wish I could find a better map of this. This is one of the maps of the idea of some of these dumb tunnels going across the U.S. The idea of how many paths there would be, huge interstate underground highways, supposedly.
Yeah, what they need is a machine that can be driven in, something the size of a truck that can still manage to reconnect two different tunnels. just to get the system started again.
Nothing near
Our
me.
current tunneling machines are the diameter of the tunnels. And that's going to be a problem in the future. We'll need something that can actually expand and go into and repair tunnels that have collapsed and since shifted on tectonic motions.
Trying to find some more decent pictures of dumb tunnels. But yeah, underground bases, China. Maybe say it like that. I'll add the word dumb again just in case it works.
Too bad we lost G. They were slamming his connection earlier when we were talking on Zoom.
Oh, did we lose Gerald?
Yeah, we did quite a while back, actually. Well, a couple minutes at least, which it's not been streaming for that long, so that's a while.
Shout out to Gerald. Gerald is an awesome researcher. And to Mike. Next week, I'll try to make it a bit earlier as they're in the East and they have to go to bed, obviously.
Sucks. I found this picture. Is this the other one? Trying to find these bases where they show like over 2017 to 2020 how they started building so many more Chinese underground bases and connecting them to already existing tunnels that they found.
Yeah, that's probably been expunged from the internet. But maybe if you look for the ancient Chinese tunnels, then it might show up next to the ones that they've then connected and built into them. And yeah, that's the thing is some of these tunnels, they seem so old, they seem pre-cataclysm that it's like maybe they do.
These are some of the newer style ones. These are like the 16th to 1800s. They get really small. I remember Bermuda and some of the islands, you see these tiny tunnels. But these tiny tunnels, you can see they're bricked up to make the Etch-a-Sketch earth. And that's the thing. When you talk about sediment levels, how do we do this? Earth, layers, sediment. If you look at the earth, it's like an Etch-a-Sketch only for so far. And then beyond the Etch-a-Sketch, well, this is
look at how they make it brick. It's all bricked. Oh, we got Gerald back. What up, Gerald? We got you back.
Yo, buddy.
Go back.
Yeah, he was trying to fix the audio. Is it better?
No, he's still quiet. Unfortunately, you're still quiet, buddy.
It's all a conspiracy to keep you down.
But like in the book, see how it made it was brick? Like the layers, they bricked it, and it's like it seems like in actual geological layers, nature stacks in bricks. And then with Paul Cook's work, it's like, is it actually nature? And I'm really looking forward to Dutch Synth's interview because that guy has discovered his own science showing that you can accurately predict earthquakes and has been saving lives doing so for like a decade. And his discoveries now he wants to come out with basically show that the continents, the geology is not what we've been told or taught, and it all looks artificial.
Well, he's definitely right about that.
Here it is. Sean
and I were. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I just found the underground city in China. But go ahead. We'll talk about it in a minute.
Yeah. So we were chatting earlier, talking about some of the stuff that Dutch Synth had said, and great little teaser interview there, Bernie. Left us hungry for a lot more of that. And your channel really is, for the exact reasons we talked about earlier, its lack of extreme popularity thanks to the algorithmic.
Yes, I've actually lost 20 subscribers since the day has begun, despite showing on other channels.
But yeah,
interesting. Guys, if you're watching this on Xirtus, make sure you go over to Crypto Alchemist and subscribe to his channel. That's Crypto Alchemist with a crypto and an alchemist.
And or also BurnEye, Mine's Third Eye, ScienceGuy. My now monetized channel, they rejected Crypto Alchemist, the bigger one, of course.
Right. You're just
simultaneously. The funny part is like the two accounts I applied together and they're connected and they're like, okay, we'll monetize your smallest one, but we won't monetize your larger one.
Does your larger one? Okay, well, there's a reason for that. Is your larger one have stuff on it, copyright strike and all that strike and everything like that? If you've had any kind of problem on your channel, they're not going to like it. And you might think it's okay because they let you have those videos are monetized and things. But the more content you put out on BurnEye is your own content. It's mostly your conversations and stuff.
Well, the
So
trouble
this
with
is all
BurnEye's
copyright
channel
shit.
is that he has shared content, right? So, like, Bernie, you have all these channels. Not only do you share the content between your channels, so YouTube's algo says, well, all these channels
I
happen to
think
share the
that's
same
actually what
content,
it is.
therefore...
They said I uploaded too much of the same content without changing it. So it's like, no, it's just they're both my channels with my original content that I've made with other channels.
Yeah, and YouTube's not smart enough to actually tell that, well, that content is also shared by the same user, so that makes sense. But I guess they're trying to discourage the idea that you can have multiple channels sharing the same content, even if it's 100% your own and it's not simultaneously streamed on another channel. You're still screwed.
Well, it's an easy fix. You delete on one channel one kind of content, you have other kinds of content, the other content, and then they're going to let you reapply. Yeah, you know, the thing is, this isn't as big of a conspiracy as some other things in the world, man. Sometimes they just want to
100%. I'm going to put together a little petition video. I have until the 5th of December to put together a 5-minute video to dispute it. So I will do so, and hopefully they will approve.
Yeah, just say that you've considered the things that they've said, and you're making sure that the channel is completely different in terms of one kind of content than the other, and so that's why they're completely different kinds of things. And you know, you can even have other YouTubers come and talk and say, okay, well, one channel you have a lot of people on
I'll start doing like certain just on Crypto Alchemist, actually a couple crypto videos or something like that. And then on the BurnEye one, I have some other channels that stream to it that don't stream. And now Crypto Alchemist is actually multi-streamed to the Alien Scientist and Xirtus. So we might have some extra videos just on Crypto Alchemist from good Jeremy Reese. And I guess probably APEC will only be on Crypto Alchemist then going forward, because it'll be multi-streamed for a higher quality from Jeremy's computer instead of having to run off of mine doing the Zooms.
Look at these cities in ScienceGuy.
Sorry, Gerald says they keep killing my internet in the chat, so that's why he keeps on popping in and popping out. Normally he has a perfect connection. Tonight, forget about it.
It's actually crazy. Like, yeah, like I don't even know what I'm allowed to say live without getting the risk of getting attacked. So we will just
probably anything. Honestly, I think you can probably get away with most anything.
The best thing to do is to comment on things that have been talked about already, because you're like, look at this thing that they're talking about, and there are usually you can find almost somebody ever talking about anything. But just really quickly, this is Sunmencha, and it is a city in China in the northeast, and they have a history of having these kind of underground burrowed in houses, right? Like you can see.
Is this a historical restoration?
Yeah, this is, as well as the fact that they have a dome there, you know, as well. So
I want a Hobbit home.
It's pretty sweet. Insulatory, keeps you warm. There are a lot of these, in case of nuclear attack, Beijing's underground city is the one. Diksha Cheng article. Look at that, man. They have all these places ready to go in case of nuclear fallout. Right, the whole world's got this idea of these nuclear bomb shelters. So, I mean, the thing is, so many of them were already there, and like you just saw, like in China, they already have people living underground, and people have been working on building tunnels for so long. It's mainly a job of reconnecting already existing tunnels. When earthquakes happen, you have that etch-a-sketch kind of thing, where it erases the top layers of sediment, but then underneath it, things are usually still the same. And then there's, of course, the jelly. What's it called? The volcano snail. Using the volcano snail. Everybody loves the volcano snail. It's this terrifying volcano snail. I mean,
wow, look at that.
Lives at 900 degrees. Has a shell made out of magma. Is literally the bad guy from the Alien vs. Predator movie. It's amazing.
That is absolutely amazing. I will also mention, G emailed me, and we're and in it, just to get non-specific, talking about disrupted discharges. At the time of one of his experiments, he was in a he was on the 3rd floor, and it apparently was able to come from I don't know if it was the 1st floor or the basement, but This signal was able to get up to the 3rd floor and cause problems for electronics and some of his family members. His CAS detected it. And so disrupted discharges through the right kind of coil geometry can really, really help enhance some of the effects and phenomena. And again, Tesla knew about this. Tesla had practiced extensively on creating many different methods for disrupted discharges. Part of them were magnetic quench spark gaps. I know Mike from Faraday has talked quite a bit about those, and he's definitely on the right ballpark there. You had air quench spark gaps, oil quench spark gaps. The oil quench spark gaps were cool because what he would do is actually have a spark discharge between 2 terminals that were otherwise immersed in oil, and when the oil is present, they cannot discharge. But he would inject bubbles into the line of the pump every so often in sequential and very well distributed order, so that each time a bubble passed the spark gap, it would discharge. And he was able to control his pulse rates and transfer a very, very large amount of energy with extremely rapid cooling using the oil pumped disrupted discharge system. Either way, what we're talking about here is a very, very fast magnetic field collapse in any kind of coil or anything that has inductance whatsoever, where high current flow is through the disrupted discharge into the coil. And then when it's cut off, all that energy has to return. So we have the Feynman disk paradox effectively. Well, that lasted a little while. Oh, he's back. Let's see how long. We should probably let Gerald get on before they completely kill his net.
Right. You're looking clean.
And you're quiet again, buddy. Barely. They're screwing with your mic now. Nope.
Yeah, I'm already at 180. Can you hear me?
Do me a favor, G.
Barely.
Where is the microphone? Put the microphone right in front of your face.
I'm in front of my laptop. I don't know where the microphone is.
It's not him, guys. I'm telling you, it's not his mic. He's that mic. The attenuation is literally being screwed with. It's probably being screwed with through the system settings. So if you click on settings and you go click on audio tab, you'll see a little gear at the bottom of your StreamYard window. You're going to see something called echo cancellation, stereo audio, and automatically adjust mic volume. It's the 3rd box. You want to uncheck the 3rd box.
I'm at 200.
Or check the 3rd box. Maybe try checking it.
Also, kill your webcam because of your bitrate.
Huh.
How about now? Can you hear me now?
No.
Man, they crush your mic. Unbelievable. That's actually a new problem we haven't seen before. Whatever you were gonna say.
Cyber hijackers are taking over the microphone right now, making sure that Gerald can't tell us the truth about fantasy. Have you restarted? Did you restart your computer and everything? Man.
Wow.
Twice.
And it's like last week we could hear you loud and clear. Same program, same everything.
Pretty
Same
crazy.
Physical setup too. Let's point that out. The microphone and himself were positioned in the same spots. He's actually getting closer, almost twice as close as last time, just to test this. It doesn't matter. You know who else this happened to? Dan Foster with the grab inductor right at the point.
Turn on automatic audio and turn off automatic audio again. Also, just see if that triggers anything in the settings.
How about now?
Windows TX spread.
Almost better, but not really.
That's automatic adjust mic.
Okay, now turn off automatic and turn it back to normal. To manual, I mean.
How about now?
Back to manual.
Pretty much the exact same.
It's on manual now. How about now?
Still the same.
Give your mic a little.
Yeah, just hit.
How about now?
That's perfect.
Hey!
There it is. You got it. You got it.
What's the secret to your success?
How'd you do it, Joe?
What did you do to make that work?
Did you throw money at it? Oh, is it frozen now? They're like, it's just not okay that this guy is going to speak, so let's freeze his computer. I think it's funny.
Again, G. I'm sorry,
I think it's funny. Our lives are like this whole joke to people. They're like, look, we're just going to freeze the computer now at this point for him. I mean, he had perfect signal earlier. Did you notice that?
Yeah,
No, now the sound's back to terrible, but I could hear you again.
It was perfect for a minute, for a second. For a second there, was it high? Yeah.
Now?
Yeah, now it's good.
Yes.
Stay there.
Now it's good?
Stay
Yeah, it's
there.
perfect.
Now, before
All
anybody
right.
says anything, let me just ask, what are you doing differently? What did you click on?
What do you
to
mean?
change it?
Compared to the last week?
What's it set
No,
up?
I mean
Absolutely
compared to just
nothing.
like 1
What's it
minute
set-
ago, 60
what's it
seconds
set up?
ago.
What's
What
it
did you
set up?
change?
What's it set up to right now?
You know what? I changed the microphone that it said that it was on.
Yeah.
It was on default before. I've never changed anything before. All of a sudden now it's... I have no idea why it did that.
All right.
All right, well,
keep
you know
this
what the
So
one.
solution is
I've
now. It's
changed the
focus your
microphone, and
webcam
now
mic.
apparently you guys
For
are...
those of you
hearing
who
me loudly.
survived, let's do a deep dive, Joe. Show us what you've been working on. Maybe now that the mic is working, it'd be a good time to talk about your progress
Okay.
so far.
Progress, yeah.
Give him a big old solo, Bernie. I can't control it.
Okay, so the disruptive discharges, those are a very big key. I believe those are the things that start the sequence, and the coil system, because it's nonlinear, amplifies that said sequence. My daughter, I'm in the basement. My daughter's on the 3rd floor, and she said that she was shocking the cats over and over. They wouldn't even get near her. And that was while the system was on. So upon shutting it off, she went back upstairs and tested it again and came back down, and everything was fine after that. So that was what the email was about. I thought I'd explain to you. And it did affect her electronics, her phone. She was on call with a friend of hers, and it dropped the call. So
Wow.
just saying.
The field
This stuff's
potential for
crazy.
that is nuts, and I'm sure everybody is dying to know what kind of coil and how did you produce such an incredible field?
This is the coil that I've been doing experiments with over the last few years, actually, because it's one that I got in a dream. So it's the one where it has 750 feet on either side of it. It's a bifilar wound geometrical coil. Basically, it's a series of line inductors that allow or create spin. I would say it's an electromagnetic electrostatic vortex is what I would say, considering everything I'm seeing and all the evidence upon it. I mean, when you're shocking your cats over and over again, you're
On the
getting
third
some static
story-
electricity buildup.
Yeah, we've
Sorry?
got to think this field came from, where were you located at the time? The basement?
I'm in the basement, and my cats and my daughter are 3 floors up.
So 4 stories above you, you're generating electrostatic potentials through 3 different floors, all the wiring, all the carpet, all the wood, all the structure, and still generating an electric scalar potential where any object that walks in from the outside or moves in from the outside happens to be carrying the old frame of reference, the electrostatic charge. That's a crazy distance, dude.
And there's a little bit more.
Considering your system's magnetic and that it's not electrostatic, that there
Sorry,
are no
say
high
that again?
voltage power supplies needed. Well, what I'm saying is your system, you don't need the high voltage power supplies to generate these extraordinary magnetic potentials. And they are doing charge separation 4 stories above where you're doing the experiment. Charge separation, once again,
I'm only
here we are,
using-
right back to it.
Yep. And I'm barely using anything. I'm using 18 volts on the input, 1 amp. That's it.
Really?
Yep.
That's bonkers.
That's not a lot of energy.
No, it's not. Considering I can fill a capacitor bank. See, we did the math on it earlier. It's 4 capacitors of 250 volts with a total of 6,000 microfarad. It's 187.5 joules. Jeremiah and I have to do all the timing and everything, but it charges extremely fast, and I can light an incandescent bulb off of it, and that's just on my secondary. So while that's occurring, while I'm doing that, and I do a disruptive discharge, that's when the static field tends to build a whole lot quicker and very strong, actually.
So that's where I'm at with that. I just wanted to give you that little update. That's
I
what
think when our
disrupted.
community, when our community grasps as a whole the importance of charge separation and how it can be done magnetically, it's going to change things.
Yes, it is. Definitely. And you got to also understand it's very dry where I'm at right now. Of course, the snow's hit the ground, and everybody knows what happens in wintertime. It's very dry in your house. And I have hardwood floors, so that it doesn't help.
Oh, that's a big amplifier.
Just saying.
Yeah, I mean, imagining field, man. This is big field.
I think a lot of people listening probably don't know what charge separation is.
To some degree.
Actually, Adam, I would love if you wouldn't mind, for everyone here and even myself, I love to hear this again. Let's go into charge separation and talk a little bit about what it is and why it matters.
Take the floor.
Well, the basic idea, at least from what I understand, is if you hit an atom the right way, you get the protons go in one direction, the electrons go in another, you have separated the charges out. And if you do it in a whole line, like on a copper wire, you can recover all of that electricity generated. When Tesla did it, it would activate over entire areas, and that's why he came up with the secondary coil of the Tesla coil was designed to receive that energy, because it was something different. And if you're looking for if you've actually got charge separation, if your Tesla coil puts out pure AC, both directions for the electricity, you don't have it. You got a Tesla coil that puts out direct current one way or the other, it's positive or negative on the top, you've absolutely done it.
Yeah, because here's the basic idea, the premise. If you have a sinusoidal waveform, which is equally in its voltage positive as it is negative. So let's say with our normal AC line in the Midwest or in the Americas, we have 60 hertz frequency at 115 volts potential as rated. Now, there are variations to that. It can be anywhere between 145, which would be the extreme offset of a system that's not working right, to 120 volts that's still working correctly, down to 110 volts. Either way, we have 60 hertz at 110 volts. It's not a lot of potential, and we have a very large amount of current. If we can convert that into a very, very high potential using disruptive discharge, we have something brand new that we can now play with, and it doesn't flow through wires in the same particular way. Now you're talking about a field that flows around not through the wire, but through the outside field of the wire, also known as an evanescent wave in the near field, and known as a longitudinal wave in the far field.
You're so much better at describing that than me.
Absolutely not.
Simon, Simon, I know that you've had some interesting things to say. I threw you the link in case in the Discord you're there if you want to come in and pop in and talk about some of these ideas. I know you were saying you might be able to make a sensor based on components used in these lamps, so it might be interesting to bring that up somewhere.
And by the way, these disruptive discharges, Tesla played with spark gaps a lot. Others have been trying to do it with transistors and failing. I saw a schematic today I'd never seen before using a regular MOSFET and then a high voltage diode to stop the back EMF. And has anyone here played with that particular schematic?
I'm actually using that.
Go ahead, Gerald.
I'm using that particular setup right now, but I'm using a horizontal deflection transistor in order to pulse when I'm pulsing, because of the fast pulse rate's it's astounding. It works really well.
There's the key there, and you just mentioned it. Horizontal deflection transistors, and in fact, almost all transistors of the NPN power switching type do not have an internal protection diode built in like most MOSFETs do. And so when you tie them or you pair them with a high-speed external diode, you get transistor-like operations where they can free resonate and they don't backwards conduct. That's where you can start to get some of your decay sinusoids and your other natural resonance modes, because, well, let's say it this way. A transistor on its own is like trying to tap a tuning fork and make it ring while leaving the mallet still touching the side. You put a diode in series with a normal NPN transistor, now it's the same as taking a mallet, tapping the tuning fork, and the mallet flying off the side so the tuning fork can continue to ring. The diode is effectively the same as removing the thing that makes the strike from the thing that's resonating. And both acoustically and electromagnetically, that diode is an isolation device which the transistors don't have built in. MOSFETs do have it built in, but it's across the drain and the source pins, and using an external diode will allow you a higher free resonant potential than what is otherwise built into MOSFETs. So just again, adding a simple high-speed diode of an equal rating to your semiconductor will allow that system to free resonate. And it's also a trick that I personally use as well.
Yo, Simon's here. What's up, Simon? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm just a huge nerd. That's basically it.
Welcome, fellow nerd.
Yeah,
Nerd
the comment
on.
I made earlier was just regarding streetlight interference phenomenon, and how we could potentially create a sensor based off the components in the lamps, which incidentally Jeremiah was talking about components used in those lamps just earlier today. So like in this stream. I don't know. It's just, train of thought.
Beautiful. So, I mean, let's maybe elaborate a bit on that. So, what is streetlight interference phenomenon to start?
So the TLDR is basically people, when they're near certain kinds of street lights, at least, they'll
blink on and off?
Yeah, it'll shut off the light. And this is, I saw someone talking, Anthony, how could be street lights being interfered with by headlights, but nah, I'm talking like 3 a.m. walking, and not a car on the street. So, and street light after street light after street light. So I don't think it's really, I think there's something more going on.
I've experienced that where I've been either walking or driving, and it's like I'll get close to a light and it'll either turn off or turn on, and I'm just like, what the bloody is going on?
I've seen that too, Bernie.
This is a synchronistic thing that you bring this up, and it's like, what is this? Let's go more into this.
Well, I got a little story for you guys. So I was in middle school at the time, coming back on one of my motorized scooters. That was the 2.5 horsepower Briggs & Stratton 1975 engine. And, a couple of people were walking home and came across a group of friends from my middle school. And anyways, I'm like, hey, guys, check this out. I want to show you something weird. And so we talked for a bit. I'm like, as I go down these streetlights, watch them shut off. But I've always wondered, is it somebody else? So the other kids were on their bikes. Well, at least 3 of them were. The other 2 were walking. They were kind of like walking their bikes. But one of the bike kids went down, bought my same body height, size, mass, whatever, went down the hill, and nothing interesting happened. I go down the hill, and the rest of the people in that group watch the streetlights blink off one after the other, the total of 4 in that sequence down the hill. And they're like, what the hell? So they said, have you installed something on the poles or in the streetlights to make them do that? And it was a relevant question because I had screwless city power distribution things at that point and had
allegedly
a local record. But anyways, yeah. So we demonstrated that to a group of witnesses. I didn't bother to record it at the time because it was just a kind of a common thing for our family. Most of us in the family could pretty much do the same exact thing, and I have no idea what the heck it was. But it does tie back into other stories, which I don't know if you guys wanted to get into, shutting off stereos and
Dude, go full Dumbledore right now. I mean, I don't think people realize the kinds of crazy stuff you do with electricity. The way I met this guy was he was literally just sucking energy like a vampire out of the FCC's UHF radio frequencies. This is how he actually sustains his energy and stays alive. No. But yeah.
Oh my god. Have you guys, any of you, seen What We Do in the Shadows? It's a vampire comedy series.
Yes.
And energy vampires, and just what you described is absolutely hilarious.
I mean, but more or less, am I exaggerating even a little bit, Jeremiah? I mean, that's basically it's kind of like your whole lifestyle.
Well, this was Jeremiah that was sucking these radio waves, am I understanding?
He has a machine to do it. He can actually harvest energy.
Well, I had nothing on me, though. That's the
please
interesting
go more
thing,
into
guys.
this.
That's
but
what's
you-
weird about this, right? I had nothing on me. I didn't have any devices. I had
No,
a
but you were
basic
carrying
internal
your
combustion
big
engine
fucking brain
scooter.
around.
Any car should have done that, right? If it was a mass thing, if it was that my capacitive mass,
So
to
Simon
the
got
earth
the point. It's
and my
because you're
local
a
field
student.
catching
It's
it.
because you're a wizard. That's so. What is the magical properties of a high energy person?
Well, the
I know how
students
to
never
explain
told
what
me you're a
happened.
wizard, Jay. They never said that to me. So,
Well, I mean, your brain, you're generating all sorts of fucking EMF with that thing, and you know.
yeah, but other people should have done it too, and that was the idea of the control test. When the other kid on the bike ran down the hill and I ran down it on a scooter, you got to keep in mind both of us are on rubber wheels. We're isolated from the ground. I'm not dragging a ground cord on this thing. This is just a crude little adaptation from a Goodwill scooter that I bought for $5 and welded some extra poles on it, stuck an engine on the back, and called it a day. That was my school transport because it was
Could
too
it have
far
been a
away.
sound sensor?
No, there was no electronic sound at all.
Imagine Jeremiah talking to his grandkids. He's like, I used to have to levitate snow uphill both ways as a kid.
We used a flamethrower for that, but that's because it was crude.
But the point is, like, it could literally just be the geometry of some part inside of our brains that's, you know, if you're a specific build, you know, it'll affect that specific model, you know.
I've got an explanation for what's going on, and I think it is something in somebody's brain.
Melissa seems to have seen it too. Let me think.
Wait. Adam, elaborate. What? He's got an
So-
hypothesize with
Anyway,
us.
I mean, this goes back to the whole Beagle coil idea. And if you think that reality is made out of these Beagle coils, which are the quarks, you know, you've got right and left hand magnetic spin, electric charges, whatever they are, they all get together and make our reality, but they're all running at the same frequency. And that's why they interact with each other. If they run at a different frequency, they pass clean through each other.
Claw crystals.
So this is how you can get something like our world, the near astral realm, the other astral realms. And if that's true, it means like the emotional, the mental things that we use as humans in our brains are actually field forces stable, just like this world is, only at vastly different frequencies. The real trick behind this, if I'm right, the field forces are shared. So if you build a Van de Graaff machine in a daydream in the middle of your kitchen, for example, you can physically feel it here. And I scared the heck out of myself doing that one day. But I'm pretty sure that's what's going on because I tested it and it worked. That we're literally running on stacked realities.
Bernie, pull up
So-
my pictures of crystal hippie stuff. Keep going.
My goodness.
So basically, what you're saying here, Adam, is that if you were in a dream and in your dream you happen to be in your kitchen, and in that dream in your kitchen, your dream kitchen, you happen to run a Van de Graaff generator that, well, you just walked into the room and it was already there. Dreams can work like that. You turn it on, you run it for a while, you charge up everything around you. You're saying you could then wake up, go into there with an ESD meter and detect it. That's pretty fascinating. I mean, the significance of that is kind of wild.
Oh, it's completely wild. The thing is, this is why you look at the brainwave patterns of the shamans. They are in regular awake state as well as the dream state at the same time, because you have to be able to create a working piece of machinery in your dreams, manage to plug it in. And that is not an easy feat right there.
So
I
what you're
assume there's-
describing is the use of soma, basically.
I do that all the time. I thought that was normal. Isn't that just imagination?
Right, but you can have real effects in this world from it because the field forces are shared. So you can't directly alter this place. It appears to be frozen reality. But what you can do is build a machine that will melt this reality, but you build it in, I don't know, the emotional, the mental, you build it somewhere else. You build it on some other level that you can mess with. And that's the trick of how the shamans did all this stuff in ancient times with none of the fancy hardware I've got.
Interesting.
You know, build your Tesla coil with the charge separation stuff in it. Build it in a daydream while you're awake in a room. If you can figure out how to power the thing, make it actually function, you can create those same effects with no hardware.
This is where we get super hippie for a second, right? Because this is who you are. You're filled with crystals. Oh, wait, yeah. Wait, let's look at that for a second. That's pretty sweet. Dang it, Bernie, you're hypnotizing me. No, wait, no, what is this? The copper coils are...
That's
First
a
stop,
Rosen
energies.
coil.
I know this one's called eye pyramids, and I found them on Instagram. They make them, and then they pump the certain solfeggio frequencies through them, and they make them through organite, and they put different crystals in that organite torus, and hopefully be able to get these guys on. I messaged them about coming on a couple of the Year of the Coil podcast, as well as the Science of Sound, because they look like they're doing exactly what we've been talking about.
Interestingly, I've actually seen 3D printed and pre-wrapped Chinese-made coils just like that now available for purchase on, of all places, Banggood.
Banggood.com.
Alibaba.
And make like,
okay, but so we got quantum crystals, and they're inside your blood, and isn't that what's going on? Isn't that kind of the point that we're all
quantum crystals, time crystals?
Well, yeah, because they're developed. That's what the ribonucleic acid is doing, is it's allowing it to grow and explode. So it's hemming itself while it's growing, and they're kept small, very small. But they're wireless computers because they're crystal radio computers that have the same cycles. So you are made up of quantum computers that are basically aerial antennas. This is your blood.
When you start looking at DNA and cell structure, they're little tiny self-reproducing nanotechnology. They're amazing.
Yeah, we're basically wet robots. It's pretty cool.
And if you understand that, it makes your plant... Well, it makes plant breeding easier, because when you realize you're self-programming, conditions for a plant out in your garden, they will reprogram their DNA for their offspring to be more successful. It's amazing what they're capable of.
That thing is sweet. Yeah, I like the idea of just storing energy, though. The more kind of novel ways of storing energy.
Well, you guys have seen this. Do you have any idea what is in that pendant?
What?
Do you have any idea what's in that pendant?
Usually, my first guess is
wire.
My most scientific hypothesis is always going to be hippie stuff. It's always going to be, because it almost tends.
Well, hippie stuff is fine, but I want to know specifically what hippie stuff it is.
Another question: is this Jeremy Cowbell's doppelganger?
Oh man, that's funny, but it does look like. I'll stop there.
I love it. I love having that pyramid thing he's sitting in. That's pretty sweet. But I mean, so it's probably some kind of crystals, and then it's wire wrapped. It's spinning too fast for me to be sure. But it looked like it was.
Like, is there a magnet, or is it just copper? Questions we have for this individual that is Jeremy Cowbell's doppelganger.
If it's just copper, that would work. There's a website, First Stop Energies, that has patented pretty much the coil that we're looking at, and they showed that happening with simple copper stuff getting spun in the field.
Yeah. Daniel Nunes.
Yeah.
I got to get back into my Facebook, because I have been talking to him in the past. He actually came on Alien Scientist channel stream with us one time when I reached out to him before. Nunes, if you are watching this, I do need to get a hold of you. I forget what his freaking email is. I have to check it. I think I have it somewhere.
His channels have been taken down too, Bernie.
Yeah, I was supposed to say his channels have been taken down, so we need to figure out what's going on. Why are all of the Year of the Coil channels getting taken down?
That's because when something works, they don't like it.
Yeah, surely couldn't be, because we should be studying coil systems. Surely shouldn't be anything to do with the refractive index or anything to do with time. Nah.
Pull up my wiki for a second.
Yes,
that sounds
sir.
So dirty. Free energy suppression
wiki.
conspiracy theory wiki page article. Free energy suppression, or new energy suppression, is a conspiracy theory that technologically viable, pollution-free, no-cost energy sources are being suppressed by government, corporations, or advocacy groups. Devices allegedly suppressed, including perpetual motion machines, cold fusion generators, torus-based generators, reverse-engineered extraterrestrial technology, anti-gravity propulsion systems, and other generally unproven low-cost energy sources. The alleged suppression or weakening is claimed to have occurred since the mid-19th century and allegedly perpetuated by various government agencies. This would be really easy to fix, right? This article, as soon as someone comes up with a just cut out a few words like allegedly and hypothetically.
Well, no, it wouldn't be, because the thing here with this article is one of its key components is the word conspiracy, and if something actually works, it can't fall into this article.
I mean, you do have conspiracies that aren't theories that actually exist or existed.
Right.
You know, like there's the light bulb conspiracy where they, you know, made all the incandescent bulbs shit and burn out quickly so they could make a buck, except for...
Well, that was actually admitted officially by the corporations as part of the collab, so that's not even
Saudi Arabia?
It's just an accepted fact.
And if you buy the light bulbs that are rated for higher voltage than you have, like a 130 volt light bulb when you're on a 120 volt circuit, that's what the stoplights did, and they last nearly forever that way.
The Centennial Light, located at 4550 East Avenue, Livermore, California, maintained by the Livermore Pleasanton Fire Department. Bulb has been 121 years old, installed in 1901, and has only been turned off a handful of times. The bulb has been noted in the Guinness Book of World Records.
I think it's either Saudi Arabia or some other country in that general vicinity. They have bulbs that you can only buy there.
Dubai bulbs you're talking about.
You're absolutely right.
The Philips Dubai bulb? I'm trying to remember that.
So it's not like they can't do it. It's just they won't do it.
But can't you get those in the USA?
Nope.
No, they're illegal.
The Dubai bulbs. Take a look at there. You had it, Andreas. You actually had the number of filaments. That's not a Dubai bulb we're looking at, by the way. So let's just get past that.
And I should interview Parker Edmondson.
Good.
Been following.
There it is. That's it.
You
see that? Yep. You see how many filaments are in that thing? Okay.
And they're lower powered is the point because they're just distributed, right?
It's higher efficiency.
Those are an LED strip that has like 20 or 30 LEDs on it. And what they're doing is those are much higher voltage. They're rated for about 30% more voltage than what they're actually drawing. So they don't get anywhere near as hot. And the Dubai government specifically contracted these things for their local hotels and restaurants and everything else that really were the tourist destinations for people to come to Dubai in the first place. And because the LED filaments, if you want to call them that, it's not actually a technically correct word, but because these LED sources are running at so much less potential than their normal nominal high temperature output, they just last and last and last and last. They didn't want to have to deal with bulbs ever being burned out because it affects the public perception of this extremely classy, high-quality environment that Dubai's government tries to create.
They do also have a lower color temperature, though, so not so great in cold environments. But if you're in Dubai, you're probably sick of warmth anyway. So
the thing is, though, part of that contract was these bulbs made by the companies cannot be exported anywhere else, and they are made all over the world and sent specifically to that one location, contracted by the Dubai government for this allure of having this really high quality, no bulb was ever burned out and everything is perfect perspective from the public. But yeah, you can't buy them here in the US. You can't buy them in Canada. You can't buy them anywhere else in the world, period.
So yeah, all that to say that there might be a conspiracy, maybe, to prevent cheap electricity and other power.
Only a conspiracy that's on file and very, very well documented at this point. Yeah.
And totally not starting any wars.
It's easy to make your own light bulbs. Like my living room light is run off my solar power system. I've got 3 Cree Q5 LEDs and I'm running them at like 60 milliamps and it lights up my whole room no problem. It's absolutely amazing. Just build your own.
I mean, you can make a little plasma torch if you need to.
There's lots of conspiracies. Like water, for instance, breaking water. Right. Man, it's so easy to break water. I was lighting it on fire almost every day when I was playing with hydrogen. And they say it's this big power draw. It wasn't. I was using 12 volts. It was nothing. It all has to do with the shape of yourself.
It's all about the current. And so, yeah, when you take a look at the electromotive separation that's been calculated through electrolytes, the energy required is significantly larger than it seems the thermal output from burning this gas would provide. And what's really, really weird about Brown's gas, as they call it, or HHO, what's fascinating about that is it seems to have a much more complicated structure. It's not just simply HHO. That's been our public assessment of it. But you can get very, very large numbers of either protons or electrons clustered together in forms that are semi-stable. And this gas can deliver an incredible amount of energy. So just to kind of state what Brown's gas is and the strangeness of using high voltages and high electric fields to separate hydrogen and oxygen in the water molecule compared to the normal electrical processes that we use. Well, the flame itself may be only 200 degrees, maybe 250 degrees, but you touch it to a piece of ceramic, and now the same materials that are actually burning in the flame will heat that ceramic to over 10,000 degrees and melt right through it regardless. Because technically it's not about the temperature of the flame like you'd have in an oxy hydrogen torch normally. In this case, it's actually about the amount of energy in the charged clusters that are rotating around. Hence, we're back to exotic vacuum objects once again and almost saw gas.
And shout out to Gary McKinnon. You just had him up there, Xirtus. We've been talking a little bit. He's been commenting on this channel a little bit since I engaged him on Tim Ventura's channel after he did a presentation with him. Hopefully, we'll be able to do a multicast with Gary McKinnon and Jeremy Reese, myself, and Xirtus. And I'm sure Jeremiah, if you want to join, he would probably be more than down. And I guess Gary now does Google search engine optimization. So that is something that's key to all of us in understanding these YouTube algorithms and getting this information out there to the masses, or at least figuring out the suppression that's been happening on us all. And yeah,
let's cover for people that don't know, by the way, Gary McKinnon, free energy suppression, blah, 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 blah today. But let's start with the beginning. In 2001, he was arrested at his girlfriend's house, or no, his girlfriend's aunt's house, under the nickname of Solo, as he was a hacker who had hacked into 97 United States military and NASA computers over a 13-month period. And the U.S. authorities, 2002 he was arrested, but it was 2001 he started. The authorities stated he deleted critical files from operational systems, which shut down the United States Army's military district of Washington, New York, network of 2,000 computers for 24 hours. McKinnon also posted a notice on the military's website, your security is crap. After the September 11th attacks in 2001, he allegedly deleted weapons logs at the Earl Naval Weapons Station, rendering its network of 300 computers inoperable and paralyzing munitions supply deliveries for the United States Navy Atlantic Fleet. McKinnon was also accused of copying data, account files, and passwords onto his own computer. U.S. authorities stated the cost of the tracking corrections to the problem he caused was over $700,000. Which isn't that much then, if you think about it, which may be downplaying how interesting the stuff he did was. But one of the things he says is, hey, they're suppressing a bunch of stuff they have. I've seen it. And, this is an interesting thing that he was able to find files talking about all these different systems. And I remember, 2001 to 2007,
he found.
Well, NASA always had free energy systems that we were told, will eventually make sense when people spend all their money on the old ones. Once everyone's out of money, and in desperation, they're going to go to the free energy systems that have been around forever. But they don't look at it the same way. They don't talk about the kind of suppression aspect. Like, well, really, it's just naturally suppressed by economics, and so eventually that'll just be the way it goes. But let's go back up to the top. I'll probably say here. UFO activity and other technology potential useful to the public, etc. That's basically all I was going to say about that. I don't know. Go ahead, Gerald.
I was just going to say, yeah, they're suppressing it because they're filling their pockets. That's what it is. There's so many systems out there that run that are over Unity. It's amazing. Just look at Keenly's site. He had over, 2,800 different patents that were related to free energy devices. I built a couple of them, and a few of them work. It's actually amazing how much we don't know.
Yeah, it's funny, though, because so many people think, hey, if you're going to talk about this stuff, it's going to get I don't know. They're worried like honeypotting or something just to stop people from spreading the information. Like, if you see a YouTube video that's talking about this stuff, it's not going to be the truth. And, you know, even Jeremiah, you're saying that, like, you got to be careful about putting this information out there. But isn't that the only thing we can do at this point is just slowly walk through it together, build this stuff, and get it into a number of tests at the same time? If there's a few of these running at the same time, I mean, we're probably safer.
Well, yeah, but at the same time, you have to think of it like, okay, let's say you.
I believe so. I believe we should have 3 or 4.
But yeah, also Simon, go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
Let's say you had a leak, for instance, right? Like a massive leak. You would want to go through everything in there before releasing it to the public, even though you know that you have like a moral and ethical duty to release it.
Obligatory picture of Julian Assange. But yeah, keep going.
Yeah, so like, let's say there's a coil design that if you have it running at the wrong frequency, you end up killing yourself. That would not be responsible to release, you know, without instructions on how to do it safely. So basically, that's just the limiting factor at this point, and it's just a question of having mad lads like the people here to actually try it.
You really nailed it, Simon. I mean, you couldn't have said it better. We have things that
very
work,
true,
and they are quite erratic in some cases. They are very specific in terms of what they need for an input and a connection to, in some cases, earth ground. But the ultimate thing that we're concerned about is the dangers that they pose to biological life. The damage is very, very strange. It certainly falls outside the scope of what we can easily research in any kind of medical journals. And there's not much explanation as to exactly what the heck it is. But again, there's not a lot of research into what exotic vacuum objects are, or what kind of damage they can create, or how they operate. So this is, once again, it's sort of a brand new category of science in our modern era. I think that we've had it for a really long time, and that probably more ancient civilizations had a fairly decent understanding of the tech. But right now, we don't have it. And it's got to take its way into the academic community to become quantified and qualified. But it doesn't have to go that far before experimenters can start to get it out there. We just need to understand the basics of the dangers and exactly what kind of system is going to be consistent in producing the same exact results for all experimenters across the globe.
Clearly, whoever figured it out before were able to hold the thing, so it wasn't that dangerous. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I still have a lot of respect for anybody who has the balls to do these experiments, though.
Yeah.
So I'm going to step away for a moment. I'm setting up the other cam to do some plasma experiments, and then
this guy here
close off with some plasma vortexes. Yeah.
I love these pictures because they kind of insinuate that these aren't just light bulbs, but they're actually communicative systems, telecom systems. I wish you could see the full picture. Here's one. And you can see it seems like they're communicating back and forth. They're sending messages back and forth to each other through these vacuum tubes. Indeed. One's the transceiver, one's the receiver, or maybe they're both transceivers. Look at this guy here with this.
Well, essentially,
they cut you off. Whatever you were about to say was based. Say it again.
Yeah,
try hard.
Gerald. So any plasma could be a communication or used as a communication device, I believe.
And
just like a spark gap radio, right? Plasma needs the same effect.
Plasma communication for radio blackout during hypersonic flights. The manual says. Okay, well, like, come on, tell me more. This is interesting. How are we doing it?
Well, you would have to
piercing the plasma. Ideas to beat the.
I can add in something to that. We would call it a coherent state of matter, where because the plasma is ionized, meaning there are a large number of free electrons floating around inside of it, and a bunch of protons which have
that's not a dangerous ambient field. Okay, yeah, sorry.
So what we're doing is we're using electric and magnetic fields to grab onto that plasma and make the entire thing act as if it is one single solid object. By doing that, what we end up with is something called plasmons, polaritons, and phonons. These are 3 different mechanisms by which we can have a plasma being affected in producing radio waves. So a plasmon, well, has plasma in the name, right? A plasmon is a wave in a plasma. And it has specific characteristics. A surface plasmon is a wave in a plasma over the surface of another object, and it acts somewhat like a photon, but it has some very different divergent properties because it also has this variable speed factor, this variable velocity based on what kind of material, what kind of gas or whatever is ionized in that plasma. So you can get these strange wave interaction functions that have very, very high energy levels and cause a normal material like, say, aluminum, in Alexei Cherikov's case, to act like a metamaterial, and you get propagating waves that have unique properties and very, very high energy levels, which do affect the rate flow of time.
Well, aluminum might act weird because of the passivation layer. So basically, you have a naturally forming metamaterial, even though it's only one layer thick.
Well, if you wanted to get into layers, I mean, now we're talking about interesting interactions between the spin nuclear magnetic moment of magnesium, bismuth, and other materials like carbon. So there are some crazy things going on down at the nuclear level in the actual nuclei themselves, where the entire nucleus starts to spin around precess like a little gyroscope and develop its own angular momentum, which is not just randomly flying around, but has a preferred spin axis. Then we're starting to decouple from the local gravitational field when we're talking high energy level dynamic nuclear orientation or other related phenomena in talking about spin nuclei magnetic moments. Because there's a pretty good theory that, or I should say, there's a theory that has pretty good evidence towards it, and that is gravity itself happens to be a magnetic phenomenon, meaning that it exists primarily in the torsion tensor as an alternating current combination of different signals. We will call that an energy bottle in Bearden's words. But either way, it goes back to Tesla's dynamic theory of gravity, where it depends how much energy you have at one point in space, and as you increase the output energy of that transmitter source, it has to spread out. It becomes divergent, and so you have more energy concentrated near the transmitter than you do in the space far away from it. And because of that, you end up with entropy acting exactly the same way it does in a gravitational field, where all matter, no matter whether it's conductive or insulating, tends to flow towards this higher energy state because it wants to reach a neutral energy level, and the gradient determines that it must flow into the state where it's most neutrally balanced. So that's a gravity, basically, in a nutshell, using electromagnetic fields.
Jeremiah, TechSpread says it sounds like you're talking into a snare drum, and I think that was well put. I mean, it's brilliant what you're saying, to be fair.
Has it sounded like that previously?
Yeah,
Or
it is. I think you need like a noise cancellation.
you guys really got to tell me this stuff, because my system sounds perfectly fine for other previous calls that happened minutes before this live stream. But I have no way to know if no one tells me.
You don't hear that? You don't hear that static?
No.
There's a bit of a whooshing sound, so I don't know. Maybe there's a fan going.
I hear it. It's okay. I wasn't.
You guys hear it right now?
Yeah, I hear it when you talk. It's behind you.
I think it's noise canceling in his background, because when he first quits talking, I hear it and then it cuts off quick.
Let's check this. Testing 1, 2.
That's actually worse.
Yeah, now it's full on. That must be the fan. Your mic must be right by your fan.
Horrible.
You're on a laptop, right?
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah, so there's not really much you can do about that, unfortunately.
You need a separate microphone from your laptop, is all.
Well, we need to get you a better computer in general, though.
I have one. I just don't use it for live streaming. I try to keep it mostly offline because it's my primary database computer.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I've had enough documents just vanish from my computer that I don't really trust it.
Yeah.
If it's online, you have no control.
I only trust stuff I've printed.
Yeah, me too. Printed or written by hand.
Obligatory Berenstein Bear book picture for all of you with your printed copies of things.
I used to love the Berenstein Bears, and then it became the Stain Bears instead of the Steens, and I was like, what's going on? The Stain and the Steen.
See, these are the kinds of things that free energy people should tell you and warn you about that could happen. It's not all just fun and games.
I think that's more about manipulating timelines, and that's been one of my hobbies for years.
You think that they're not connected concepts? I feel like connect time and space. If you're gonna mess with energy, they're all kind of tied together.
Well, have you ever experienced déjà vu?
Oh,
like-
so many times.
I like Vuja Day with the feeling that none of this has ever happened before. Or rare.
I think that's multiple timelines. When you get this, like a decision point that's unstable, like when you get, let's say, choice A creates
Time,
outcome
space,
B,
energy.
but outcome B gets you to, so whatever you're doing, you end up with the opposite thing.
And then you
Like
put
one of those-
another quarter in to continue. Yes.
Right. So you keep looping until you actually remember it, and your consciousness kind of wakes up because you've been doing it too long, and then you get to make a different decision based on it. But there's ways to actually direct which way you're flowing through time more accurately than. I think that most people's problem is they think time goes from beginning to end. I'm pretty sure time goes from the least likely timeline to the most likely timeline. That's the direction of flow. So all you have to do is make the timeline you want more likely than the other timelines. But a lot of people, what?
No, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just say a lot of people, let's say, for example, a speeding ticket, driving down a road, because the road's a pretty good timeline. A lot of them will say, like, they felt they were going to get a speeding ticket. They saw the police officer, they got pulled over, they got the ticket. And that's totally possible timeline, which is what happens. Even though they feel it beforehand, they can't stop it. Because what they don't do is what you should do to get around it is you feel it coming, you slow down so you don't get the ticket. But what they'd like to do is just continue. Well, they never got that message in the first place that they're going to get a ticket. So that's not a possible timeline. So what you have to do is slow down, spot the police officer, go, oh, hey, that's what it is. And then send yourself that message. Hey, I'm about to get a speeding ticket. So you get the message in the first place. Now that's more consistent and more likely to happen than the original timeline. So you can avoid the speeding ticket.
This is why
It's just
crackheads
simple
are so
logic.
they get away with so much because they're just so confident.
Well, I've been practicing this for years. I taught it to about 10 other people, and some of them make a living on it. Like, it's something that absolutely works if you practice enough. And
Russell Tarr got away with this as a physicist. He made sure that a lot of his laser projects work better than they ought to by using a certain amount of psychic belief that they would work pretty well. That's also element 117, right? Is that the element? No, 118, which is the right
I think 118 is what you're looking for.
118, sorry.
Maybe not. The one under bismuth.
The fake element that's real now, right?
The one under bismuth. I believe that's 118.
Hold on. Oh, what's his name?
Look at the
Who's the
periodic
guy?
table.
Vic Ninovium. I'm thinking about Ninovium. Ninovium, which doesn't exist, right?
Or unatanium.
No, Ninovium. I just had the article up. Okay, Ninovium 118. You're absolutely right because you had to be. Good job, Adam. 20 years ago, Kit Chapman investigates how a scientific scandal unfolded. This guy Ninov was alone in a lab in April, and he's like, "I invented a new element," and then he's like, "April Fools." Except he wasn't. He didn't say that, and so they spent the next year and a half trying to prove that this guy hadn't just lied. He's like, "Please don't make Berkeley look this bad. If Berkeley looks bad, then Berkeley can't come up with elements anymore." Meanwhile, someone else had actually discovered 118 in like Finland or Sweden or something. I think it was Finland. And then they're like, "No, we don't think he did." And they're like, "Wait, what? No, but we did." And they're like, "Nah, we don't really, Berkeley wants to have discovered that one, and we can't prove that what you did works. So we're going to just come up with a fake element for now." And so Ninovium took over for a while, and it took like a while to prove that it didn't exist. But some of the arguments are that the reason that they found it was because they seeded it into the public that it existed and it could be found. And even though it didn't come up exactly the illogical way that this Ninov had described it would, he's like, "I bet you we could do it if we just like put enough energy in. We could make it happen." That wasn't the way that happened. Go ahead,
Anyone
Gerald.
else remember the experiments that?
So what you're talking about essentially is. Go ahead.
Oh no, I wanted to hear what you said. I won't forget.
What was your question?
Oh, I was just
Well, I
going to
was
say,
going to say essentially what you're talking about.
Go, Gerald, go.
Gerald, go.
Del-
Just don't even
delay
stop.
time.
Right?
Just believe in yourself. You got it.
All right, so that comes down to part of what my beliefs are in the power of prayer, and what others believe in comes out of the book The Secret. It's where you focus on what it is that you want, believe that you've already achieved it, and let it go, and the universe brings it back to you. So that's kind of what you're stating there, or maybe what that experiment was, part of 118. They put it out to the public, and it got into the forefront of people's minds, and it manifested by that very same fact. Just saying.
I mean, basically, that's basically the idea. And Ninov got away with it for a while. Now he's just kind of like living the dream in California somewhere because he got away with this basically, but he's not allowed to work in physics anymore. I don't know how that works.
No more physics, Mr. Num something.
Ninov, he's a Hungarian, I
Never
think.
be taken seriously again, basically.
Yeah, but he gets to do like all kinds of other cool stuff still. He had some pretty cool jobs after this anyway. But yeah, so Ninovium, the idea of building fake elements that eventually replace the real work that was being done by actual physicists and scientists in Finland and in Japan. And then they were like, hey, by the way, we're trying to remake your chemical that you just said, Ninovium. We can't do that. It doesn't seem to work. And they're like, well, you guys suck. That's all. You're un-American if you can't make Ninovium. So the Japanese for a year had all better equipment and kept trying to like, we're pretty sure it doesn't work. And they're like, no, you're crazy. Like, guys, why would we lie about this? So that's one of my favorite stories about science is just, how, I mean, there's so many examples of this though. And it's just a fascinating thing because there, it existed. They didn't want people to know about it because they were afraid then other people would figure out the real recipe. B, they could build it themselves, but instead they told people that they had to do it in a way that doesn't make sense so that other people wouldn't be able to figure it. I mean, it all comes down to what's the value of 118? Like, why? This is niobium. I'm sorry. Real element 118.
What's its purpose? What's its
list of chemical elements? 118. Let's go.
Well, clearly that's the Naquita that they use in their Naquita generators. They just, they can't give us the official name, obviously.
The official name is Og. Og is so much more occult, right? Og. Isn't it Og like a Nordic thing and like giants and like Ogden? And then giants. Og, Nog, and giant Og. So I'm pretty sure element 118 is super important to all this. I haven't quite figured out exactly why yet. That's just a kind of recent thing I've been thinking about. But there's a reason why they're like, oh yeah, we had to get to 118 and make sure other people didn't get there first, and we even faked it. And now it's called OG, the OG element.
Stability. I bet if you shift the speed of time some, it will be very useful.
I agree. First synthesized in 2002 at the Joint Institute for Nuclear Research in Dubna near Moscow. Actual success. Wow. Seaborgium, Yuri Oganessian,
the big OG.
Pretty powerful stuff, man. And then, so what's is it going to have any uses? 1998, Polish physicist, discovered reports, confirmation, naming. I mean, it's only going to last for a second, so you're right. It has to be during time space. Ooh. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, Jeremiah's laboratory.
The Mercury.
Well, I didn't want to cut you off, but
let's full screen this. Give me a harsh solo on Jeremiah.
We were talking about the mercury plasma vortexes, Bernie and I earlier, and so let me show you what this is. This is a core of a mercury vapor arc lamp. It's the one I was talking about at the beginning of the show. And so inside of it, there's a little bead of mercury right at the bottom. And it evaporates from the hot emitter, the hot cathode, and then we have a starting potential here on one of these leads, and we have the other lead. So in this case, I'm not actually going to use either of these. I'm going to give it a somewhat open circuit through a capacitance, and so I'll just be holding it with my fingers here, and I'll place it on top here, pivot this up, and hopefully we can get that plasmatic vortex that self-assembles. So again, I want to mention there's no magnets here or anything else present. I can use magnets to control the vortex or to cause it to spontaneously generate with much more coherence, but in this case it seems to be a self-assembling phenomena. So let me go ahead and flip on the coil, and hopefully the fan is not too loud. So let me just first ask, the sound of the fan in the background, is that cutting off my audio?
Still clear enough.
Sounding good.
Good. Okay, so here we go.
It does sound like NASA footage, though.
That is gorgeous.
Okay, so what I've got to do is now
Nice.
control the current on the other side. It's going to take a little bit. It's got to get warm. This is a thermionic phenomena, it seems.
Do not try this at home, kids. None of the experiments or topics covered in these videos should be tried at home.
Love that color.
I probably should be looking. Oh, man,
kidding.
it's oversaturated. It's not going to show it, is it? 'Cause it's
Looks
so
teal
oversaturated.
to you.
Ooh, that's getting hot. Well, man, I really wanted to show you guys that freaking super cool vortex that was popping out of this thing earlier. But it seems that my shutter is way oversaturated, and I guess I should have expected that. It's starting to thin out at the base and fatten up at the top, but it's certainly not doing what I was seeing earlier. It may be that I still have a lot of EVOs on the inside of this thing, and they have not fully decayed, so it might be preventing me from starting the system back up again. Oh, we got
What's
it for a
that
second.
called? It's like the Natalie Portman effect. It's the opposite of the Heisenberg principle.
You see it
It's-
moving around there?
Oh yeah. Definitely see it moving.
Oh yeah.
I wish
it's
I
starting to
really,
rotate.
really wish that I could show you this. But
Oh, that was
the
good.
shutter
That
is so
last-
oversaturated. I don't know what to do about it.
You gotta install cam twist. I'll walk you through it one weekend. We'll give you some filters.
Yeah, definitely do that. But I mean, we got all kinds of interesting,
This is
strange
beautiful.
bulbs. So this is a
I like
metal
that.
halide lamp.
Real
It's got a
science.
very beautiful startup mercury glow, but you might be able to catch just the slightest glimpse of a bit of a red or pinkish hue on the edges. And so that's the
Oh yeah,
halides taking action.
absolutely.
Yeah, there we go. You can really see the
Big
pink.
time.
And so, yeah,
Red,
that's the
blue,
halides taking action. You can see the pink side is facing towards this wire here. And
like
maybe
a ship in a bottle.
Yeah, very nice.
Anyways, yeah, it's fascinating. They use halides to increase the temperature range, as it's known now in current LED bulbs. But with metal halide lamps, yeah, the halides will produce a much wider spectra of photonic output than the normal mercury vapor lamps. And they're usually coated in phosphorus on the inside to help tune some of that down, just to get a wider band spectrum that's actually visible to humans. So Adam will be, let's see, this is a xenon lamp. So this is the kind of spiral arc lamp that him and I were talking about. I don't know if Space Case here was still in the chat, but we can see the plasma inside of the xenon here. And so what Bob Greenyer had asked was, let's see what this plasma does when it's activated by a high frequency field like the one that I showed Bob, and probably brought him to say, or speak about that experiment. Let's activate the plasma with this field, and let's try to modulate it with an external magnetic field produced by the Baco coil. So let me grab a permanent magnet here, and we'll modulate that field. Okay, so let's see if I can get that again. Oh, it's really not liking that. It's not giving me much. probably because it's a wrap tube. Well, that demonstration sucked. Sorry. That definitely did not do what I was hoping it would do.
Spaceship
Ooh,
in a bottle.
Magnets
Pretty
and
sweet, dude.
plasma.
Yep.
Okay, I can move that up. So let's see if I can maybe show this.
Yeah, I see that for sure.
Just a tiny little divot. I know, like I'm seeing it really, really clearly here in person.
Yeah, make
I can
that
definitely see it.
worm jiggle.
Right.
Oh, I can move that up. Let me just go way above it.
Space whales.
It really is a beautiful color, though.
Plasma always is.
That is exactly the shade of teal that David Icke started wearing when he decided the world was about to attack us all if we didn't become indigo children.
Illuminati confirmed.
Let's see if I can zoom in here, because there are actually some really awesome effects inside of an argon tube, and I'm not sure if I'll be able to show them, because this thing only lets me access one of the 3 cameras in this.
Hillary Clinton knows where Jeremiah lives. No.
Well, the thing is that, only one of my 3 cameras is accessible through StreamYard, and that's what kind of makes it suck. But let's see if I can show this without oversaturating.
Guys, if you guys have M1 Mac Minis, send them in the mail to our fan mail PO box so that we can distribute them to these scientists and get 4 cameras playing. Holy God, please. that is literally that is a deity from another realm talking to you right now. I can see the eyes or something.
What's fascinating is the split in the dielectric field. You see right at the center there?
Oh yeah.
Look directly into the eye of the plasma. It almost acts
kind of like, a fluid that has no gravitational mass. But yeah, I love that pattern. I mean, what it does, that crazy plasmatic self-assembling pattern, we can see all those little dots that are just crawling around, and these are effectively self-assembling plasmas.
You really have
the idea that they have a band tells us they have a magnetic field.
You really have a gift at demonstrations like this.
That's just fun science stuff, right? This is helium. In helium, we can actually see something a little different than what we just looked at with the argon. Here, I can slide my fingers along and control the bands. So, if I just hold this from the top, we move this up. Whoop, there we go. See, now I can do this kind of interesting stuff.
It's not just a gift, it's a well-earned skill. Jeremiah, the technician, has had a channel for years showing us how to do and demonstrating how he does this. It's amazing. And yes, you've gotten only better with time. But that was kind of a shameless plug. Go to Join the Technicians and subscribe if you didn't get
I don't even post stuff for that channel anymore.
Still, no, but there's a lot. That's why we're hijacking you and making you post here. But you have a lot of great content there, nonetheless. It's still good.
It's your own fault for not using exotic propulsion when you're streaming here as the name.
Well, if I cared more,
By the time we are done this,
duly noted, Simon.
We will be also streaming on both of those channels if I have my way with him. Just kidding.
Exotic propulsion, real science. Simon.
Well, on that note, Jeremiah turns off the camera, and I'm sorry.
Jeremiah, that was amazing. I'm sorry if you felt like you didn't want to share more because we were talking about.
Oh no! I had completed like a quick demonstration of a couple of gas lamps. I mean, I have a lot of stuff sitting around here that I can turn on real quick. And
go ahead, do one more.
Experiments that aren't at all ready, but
if you got it all ready, let's
let you guys talk for a bit, right?
Yeah, we can talk. Well, it's kind of like football. We'll watch what's going on in the field while we, it gives us stuff to think about.
Let's see. Maybe I should turn on some lights for this then.
I'm just going to meditate on the nuclear stability of certain types of isotopes, particularly of organesson, the 1/18th element. Appears to last the half-life of less than a millisecond, but we're not sure how much less.
All right, let's see. Well, lights on.
Wow, that is the coolest 6-track drum machine. No, I'm just kidding. I love the sine wave inverter.
I do love drum machines, but I don't have one up on this bench right now. I just have this
The new sine wave
Give me a second.
monitor from Electron. Yeah.
This is the Tesla coil that for some reason, I don't know why, but people have tremendous trouble with this thing. Actually, I guess I do know kind of why. The impedance match between the primary and the secondary coil are actually kind of critical. That's the secondary coil down in there. I used a plastic cup to wind this new primary as a quick experiment, and that's what I've been playing with. I'm looking for specific wave aspects and current responses in order to drive, well, that dastardly little thing,
Adorable.
the
What's
Grabby Flyer.
her name?
Spin,
Grabby.
baby, spin, and eventually fly.
We'll see, but I can tell you what, it hasn't taken off yet.
A prodigious Susan. All right.
So let's see. Put this on.
And I'm sorry, you said this already, but remind us, your sphered orb, is that an aluminum ball, or what is it made of?
Stainless steel.
Stainless steel. Okay. It's one hell of a steel bearing.
Well, it's not a bearing. I mean, it's hollow.
Nice spark gap.
Oh, it's hollow? Okay.
Yeah, this is called a garden gazing ball. You can get these things on Amazon or eBay. They're cheap. If you need a spherical terminal, this one is 2.5 inches.
Why
diameter.
would you want a hollow one? Is there dielectricity involved? Why would you prefer that over a solid one? Or would you, or does it matter?
Cost. The answer is simple. And
Is there would there be a
craft and implementation in the field for a portable device is weight. So cost and weight, that's my two answers.
Would there be a benefit? Would you increase field strength or anything? Would there be a resilience from a solid object, or does that not really matter because of surface area?
Oh, it matters. It definitely matters depending on what you're doing. In this case, I'm just producing potentials. So this is with a filament bulb. Oh, I just blew my MOSFET. Well,
oh
that's
no!
the end of the demos for that. Well, that's okay. I got a pile of dead ones sitting over.
Okay, that's a bummer though. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it happens. It happens. But yeah, this little filament bulb, it'll glow full bright. I didn't get a chance to demonstrate the 40-watt bulb.
And why did it blow your MOSFET? Were you pushing too much energy through it?
Well, the problem is my physical architecture and design, and it has a tiny little heat sink that's perfectly balanced to fly the Graviflyer, but not at all designed for that kind of load. And it's got a fan that's attempting to cool that heat sink with not anywhere near enough surface area. So they overheated. They blew because of thermal overload, not because they actually received an overcurrent.
You could look into some of the ice tower coolers. I'll look and see if I can come up with something.
Well, again, I could easily cool these with slightly larger heat sinks, and that would solve the problem completely. The whole entire idea was that it's fairly compact. I mean, it's a fairly small board compared to the output power that it has.
Jeremiah is not happy unless it's portable. I don't know what kind of Steve Jobs nightmare your mind is going through, but it's okay. It doesn't have to be the iPad of electronic torture. And I don't know.
If it matters in life, you should be able to grab it and go and take it with you.
Yeah, but Frankenstein was all about building a giant first so that eventually you could have homunculus. You know, you don't go small right away. You nano after mega.
Yeah, but we played with that stuff years and years ago. It's time to make it small. I've seen miraculous things happen with a massive capacitor discharge bank, which I literally refined into a 9,000 joule pulse discharge, 1.5 million ampere bank. But prior to that, I had used completely inappropriate wires, meaning I used doorbell wire to connect these huge arrays of capacitors, and somehow, miraculously, that doorbell wire did not evaporate or blow out. It delivered power to the two big old 3.5-inch long number 6 screw terminals, and managed to evaporate 3/4 of a soda can. Sounded like a stick of dynamite going off. And yet those thin doorbell wires were perfectly fine. But what it produced as a result of its discharge, because those wires were thin, there was some resistance. They had a very, very high current with an extremely small cross-sectional area, and the current was distributed across the entire bank. Well, in that case, I think I was pushing somewhere around 15,000 plus joules. I've never calculated it out because I don't have the exact voltage for the bank, but I did charge it with a neon sign transformer, and it was a series parallel configuration.
This guy.
Long story short, yeah, it evaporated 3/4 of aluminum soda can. It had caused 2 wires to pass through each other. and not damage the insulation on either, and a huge variety of other super strange phenomena, especially in the plasma effects. But what I'm really looking for now is a bank that doesn't weigh 260 pounds, or my
Right.
refined 160
That's
pound
fair.
bank that's portable.
Yeah,
I need something
20,
portable.
20 pounds is okay. 10 pounds, 1 pound, I get it. You want to get down to like less than a pound. Show them your portable. Can you pick up your magic Tesla wand for a second? Just because, like, I think people who might think I'm making more sense than I really am need to see the kinds of microsizing you've actually done. You know what I mean?
Now, this is the portable
Jeremiah
magic
is like
wand,
no
so
other.
That's not a
device is
vaporizer,
over here.
guys. That's a magic wand. That's
It's a real magic wand.
Yeah,
there's a
that
reason why
actually,
he wants to
technically it
microsize.
is. Technically it is, so.
That's terrifying, man. Ah,
It's not because of pain that I'm flinching like that. It's because the electricity is making my muscles automatically contract, and I have to know. But so I apologize. But yeah, basically you can see the glow.
he's like, I'm not being a wuss or nothing. It's my nervous system.
Don't tase yourself, bro. Don't tase yourself.
That's pretty good throwback, Simon. I missed that.
But yeah,
reference.
it's
Jeremiah, you're
130,000
amazing.
What is it? 100. I think it's 130,000 volts output. I always forget.
Jeez.
And it just
How
runs
many?
off these wonderful little vape batteries, you know.
That's the thing. See, so there's a reason why like you can adapt vape technology, and I found this out recently that they sell vaporizers pretending to be soldering irons on Amazon.
Dude, yes, I was just going to mention
for a
that.
soldering iron.
I highly recommend that people get these.
Look at show them the soldering end tip of it. So the soldering end tips are 531. Is that 531C is the size? And so you can buy a soldering iron online. And so here's the real use of an e-nail. Like this is a far more useful thing to do with it than vaporize. I mean, you can literally start soldering. Imagine that you need to fix your Game Boy on a
It's
bus.
great. I mean, it's not going to give you any kind of large terminal connections. It's pretty weak as far as soldering irons go. But if you have a field connection for small wires, like let's say you're a drone racer, that tool for the extremely low price, I mean, what are they asking for that thing? Like I think less than $20 or something.
Yeah. Right.
Anyways, it's worth it absolutely to have that kind of soldering iron.
Sorry, I just have to let my dog out. I will be right back.
Burn butane. We had to actually burn some fuel and create a flame inside of a soldering iron 10 years prior before lithium-ion batteries. In order to do that same thing. But once they came out, now we can do it electrically, and it's wonderful.
That is legit. Well, we're about 2 hours deep. Is there anything anybody wants to make sure we show before I start telling them where they can get more of your content in the meantime?
I'm good. I mean, I showed some plasma. That's what I promised BurnEye I would do. I'm going to get back to screwing with these freaking coils, and I guess I'll show this for a second.
Okay.
Let me make some obnoxious microphone noise.
All right, Xirtus, do you want me to put your screen share up quickly while I just let my dog out?
I was saying we're just gonna wind down. It's 2 hours deep, so Jeremiah's gonna show the last of his zillion sand dollars.
Oh my! Things are going to fly with those.
This would be a great mobile over a crib.
So these are all wired in series or in parallel?
You're muted, Jeremiah, if you want to try to tell us.
Correct. Thank you. They're all wired in series as of now. They're not mounted down yet, so you can shift them around a bit. And they need to be aligned. They need to be spaced correctly. So it hasn't flown yet. I've used two different methods. I've used a sinusoid AC with high current, enough to get them extremely hot to the point where they're almost melting. And I've also used a 170 volts peak-to-peak pulse. Neither of those methods had sufficient energy to really get the system localized and to get it synchronized between coil to coil in a phased array type manner. So I did try a small spark gap, and it's this one right here, using three 1.2 microfarad 1200 volt capacitors in series. It wasn't, again, enough energy, not enough energy, I guess I should say, but it's more that the pulse was not repeated fast enough. It was only firing at about 5 to 10 hertz, and I actually need to reach 12 hertz and above. So again, rebuild the power supplies. We need more energy going into this coil set, but it's not that different from what Mike from Space built in terms of what the fields are doing in twisting in. The geometry is very different. The mechanism is the same fundamentally on the vacuum. And this ties back into a lot of other anti-grav systems that we've heard about over the years that have always kind of lied in that conspiracy story category. And this is hopefully a way to test whether superposition fields can still do the same kind of thing as complicated geometric coils.
Yeah, because this is a hell of a lot easier to mass produce.
Absolutely. I mean, it's just simple bifilers, right? So if we can get the same kind of effects out of this that we get out of the more complicated systems, these things can be pumped off the line all day long. And that's what really the purpose of this thing is, because here we just have this rig, and I've got it on a Lazy Susan, so you just insert your wires into any holes that you pick, and then you can easily rotate the Lazy Susan around and wind it. So here, for all those coils, I've got my turn direction, and I've also marked my my short lead and my long lead going with these two holes. Basically, every single one of those coils is exactly the same length, exactly the same resonance as they're tuned. And so we really get some phase synchronization. They all have to be frequency tuned. So a nice little rig like that makes everything real easy. And I was lazy, so I put it on top of the wire spool, but whatever.
Jeremiah's such a boss.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
agree.
sure.
Jeremiah,
Well, I'll tell you,
is
when I
awesome.
can fly over to your house on my little Gravinikov style platform, I'll be happy. But until then, expect me to be dissatisfied with the results.
Exactly, bro. You know what I mean? That's why you have to grow long hair, so you don't have to see so much